So she was born into a Roman Catholicism and she also loved her country, that is Italy. But once the child is grown up, his interest, his perception, his thoughts is completely different from the father. So is it the same child? Is it my son who is just not listening to me, who is not even talking to me? It is like an ego here. The father is waiting for the son to come and ask sorry, and the son is waiting for the father to ask sorry. Hello everyone, a warm welcome to your prep school English class. I'm Babita Tamaya, your prep school English teacher. What are we going to study in today's session? So today we are going to discuss about the poem Father to Son by Elizabeth Jennings. Let's see what is there in today's session. What are we going to discuss? What are we going to learn? So in today's session, we'll be learning about the poet, that's the author, the theme of the story, the synopsis and the poetic devices. So without wasting much of our time, let's dive deep into today's session. So before going into the poem, let's see about the author. So the author Elizabeth Jennings is an English poet who literally wrote or who intensively wrote about personal matters in plain spoken language. Why she has written in plain spoken language? Because it is easy for the other people to understand. Not only that, as I told, she has written about the personal matters in plain spoken language. And the objective style and whose verse frequently reflects her devout Roman Catholicism and her love for Italy. So she was born into a Roman Catholicism and she also loved her country, that is Italy. A way of looking for this, she has won Somerset Maugham Award. So which was the book? It was the book A Way of Looking, which was published in the year 1955. Some of the best of her later poems concern about her nervous breakdown and its aftermath. She also published poetry for children. This is a note about the author Elizabeth Jennings. So let's see what is the theme about the story or what is the background of the story. Generation gap. So here the poem, the father and the son, it is a generation gap between the father and the son where they don't even have proper communication. The generation gap leads to lack of mutual understanding, tolerance and acceptance. Generation gap occurs when communication between generation breaks due to lack of understanding, tolerance and acceptance. As I told, why there is a generation gap, why there is a break in the relationship. It is only because of the mutual understanding. They don't have mutual understanding, no tolerance and no acceptance. Next, the poem reveals an internal conflict that a father undergoes when his son grows up and possesses his own interests, ideas and perception. So the father is there along with the son from the birth of the child. That is, the father has taken care. He has put all his efforts in bringing up the child. But once the child is grown up, his interest, his perception, his thoughts is completely different from the father. Respecting each other's differences is the only way out to diminish the distance between the parents and the children. So when there is no communication, when there is a generation gap, you could see there'll be distance between the parents and the children. So there'll be no respect, no communication and no understanding between the parents here. This is the theme of the poem. So let's go with the lines of the poem, what each and every line says about father to son. The poet here makes a wide difference between the father and the son. Both father and the son live under the same roof, but the worlds of pole apart. His son has his own way of life where the father is not able to understand. So let's go with the lines of the poem Father to Son. I do not understand this child, though we have lived together now in the same house for years. I know nothing of him. So try to build up a relationship from how he was when small. See how beautiful the poet has written. That is Elizabeth Jennings. So here in the first line itself, she says that is, I do not understand this child. So He's talking about the child. Who is I? That is the father. Father says that I'm not able to understand my child. And you can see he's not calling the child as son. He is using the word child, because even now, if there is a generation gap, if there is no communication, there is a lot of difference between them. Even then, the father shows us love and affection towards the child. So how much ever big you are, you might be a CEO of any of the companies, or you might be a principal, whatever it is. But even then, if you're grown up also for your parents, you're a child. So the father says here that I'm not able to understand my child. The father is finding to understand about his child because of the generation gap. Though we have lived together now in the same house for years. So, father and the son living together in the same house for many years. Even then, the father couldn't understand what his son or what his child is. I know nothing of him. So, father says, I don't know anything about my son. I don't know anything about him. So, I have put all my efforts in bringing up him, but I don't know anything about him right now. His interest, his way of thinking, his ideas is completely different from the father. So, try to build up a relationship from how? So, what the father is telling, I don't know anything about my child. I'm not able to understand my child. So, now he's trying to build the relationship. He wants to have that conversation. He wants to talk to his son. He wants to discuss with his son. So, he's trying to build a relationship. From where and how? He wants to build a relationship from how he was when small. So, when he was small, what relationship they had, the father and the son had. He wants to build the same kind of a relationship now, that the father is trying to scratch everything from the beginning. So, how we are showing is love, care, affection, the conversation between the father and the son. The same thing he wants to try it now after he is grown up. So let's say about the poetic device here. If we see the lines over here, you don't find any kind of a rhyming words. So where there is no rhyming scheme in the poem, those poems are called as I've already told, it is free verse. So the poem with no rhyming scheme is called as free verse. And the next poetic device in this poem, just observe the lines here. It started here and it has ended up here in between. So it is the continuation line, and in the third line you can see there is a full stop, and nowhere you can see the punctuation marks. So this kind of poem or lines are known as enjambment. What it is called as? It is called as enjambment. So here the poem or the lines from the first line till the third line, there is no full stop, no punctuation marks. Here you can see a full stop. So these are called as enjambment. Moving to the next paragraph. So in the first paragraph, it's about the communication gap between the father and the son. He is not able to understand what his son is, and he just calls his son as a child. He don't even mention he's a son. He calls him child itself because he's grown up. Even then, he's a child to the father. And at last, he wants to build a relationship with his son again, that whatever relationship they had when he was small. This is what we had learned in the first stanza. Moving to the second stanza. Yet have I killed the seed I spent or sown it where the land is his and none of mine. We speak like strangers. There is no sign of understanding in the air. This child is built to my design. At what he loves, I cannot share. Second stanza, at I have killed, means to say that, so whatever the ideas and the thoughts I had, everything it's killed because my son is not going in the same path, whatever I have taught, whatever I have preached. He's going in his own ways. He's going with his ideas and the thoughts and the perception. So whatever the father had done, whatever the father had taught him, the father expects the son to go with the same thoughts and the ideas. But it is not happening here because the son is grown up. He's not small. He has his own ideas and interests. So he's not listening to his father. Instead of that, he is going on his way. That is what I told. Both live under the same roof, but there is no communication, no understanding. The seed I spent or sown it where the land is his and none of mine. The seed I spent or sown. So the seed, it means to say that is this the child for which I have struggled all my life? I put all my effort in bringing him up in his life. So is it the same child? Is it my son who is just not listening to me, who is not even talking to me? Spent or sown it where the land in his and none of mine. So whatever it's there, so I cannot say that this child belongs to me now, because he's just opposite to me. He's not like me. What I thought, what I have taught him, what ideas I had given him, he's not following that ideas. So he questions himself, is it my son? This was the child whom I brought up. Was this the child for whom I put so much of effort in bringing up in his life? He has too many questions. We speak like strangers. See here, the father and the son live under the same roof and they are like strangers. Strangers like the people whom you don't know. You'll be very uncomfortable to speak to them. And here there is a less communication between the father and the son. So whenever they speak to each other, it's like they are strangers. There is no sign of understanding in the air. So, nowhere it is possible that we could understand each other. So, he just have a doubt. That is, frequently he questions himself, that is the father, is it my own flesh and blood? Because father's expectation is different when it comes to the son. His ideas doesn't even match. This child is built to my design. His questioning, is it really my child? Have I brought him up? Have I put so much of effort for him in his life? He is having a question now. At what he loves, I cannot share. So whatever he wants in his life, whatever expectations he has, that is his son has from his father, I'm not able to share that. So whatever the father had, that is ideas, thoughts, or it might be a cricket bat or a tennis bat, whatever the father had, everything he has shared with his son. But now, yet he loves, I cannot share. Now, whatever he wants to afford, whatever the son is expecting from his father. So the son is not expecting anything, but he's just going away from the father's thoughts. So that is the reason he says, at what he loves, I cannot share. So whatever I wanted, whatever I could effort to him, everything I have given, but what he wants to share with me, it's not possible for me to take it up. So his ideas and the thoughts or the expectations or the conversation, whatever it might be, the father is not ready to accept. Whatever the father's expectation is there, the child should accept and follow. But what the child wants to be, what his ideas, the father is not ready to accept those things. So, which is the poetic device used here? We can see the word here, seed spent sown. Yes, S, S. All the three letters are consonant letters. When it is a consonant letters, which poetic device is used here? It is alliteration. So, the alliteration is the poetic device used in these lines, because all the three letters are the consonant letters, starts from the word S. And the next, what do you have here? And the next is like, we speak like strangers. Which poetic device is used? It is a simile. So what is the poetic device used here? It is simile. Why it is simile? Speak is compared to the word strangers. That is a comparison is done. So when it is a comparison that the father is comparing, that the son and the father are like a strangers. So the poetic device is simile over here. And the next is seed I spent. That is sown. So seed I spent, it means the poetic device here is metaphor. So what is the poetic device used here? Seed I spent. So seed I spent, it refers, or it is the poetic device known as metaphor. So what is metaphor here? When the two images have compared. So which are the two images here? One is the word seed and the other one is the sown. So the two comparison of the words, that is seed and sown, when these two things are compared together, it is known as metaphor. Hope you got to know what is the poetic device in this poem. One is alliteration, the other one is simile, and the next one is metaphor. Let's move on to the third stanza, that is about the poem Father and Son. Silence surrounded us. I would have him prodigal, returning to his father's house, the home he knew, rather than see him make and move his world. In the first line, you can see that the father is telling, silence surrounded us. So, surrounded whom? The silence is surrounded between the father and the son. There is no communication. There is lot of difference between the father and the son. They live under the same roof. They live in the same house. Even then, they are like strangers. No communication is much happening between this father and the son. So it is like they are in a silence. I would have him prodigal, returning to his father's house. What do you mean by prodigal here? Have you heard about the story Prodigal, where the son leaves the house and he runs away? The same thing is shown here. If my son leaves the house and go, if he runs away from the house, and where will he go? For how many days he will be out of the house? 1 day, 2 days, or a month, or a week. But later he should come back where? Come back to his father's house. If he leaves the house and go for hardly few days, he can be there, but again he'll be back to his same place, that is his father's house. The home he knew. So which is the only home he knew? It is only his father's house. Other than that, he don't know anyone. So who will give accommodation for a longer time or a long days? Not everyone. So the father says, if he has left the house, again he'll come back to my house only. So will the father shout at the son when he is back? Let's see. Rather than see him make and move his world, I would forgive him too, shaping from sorrow a new love. So if he comes back, when he returns back to my house, I'm not going to say anything. I'm not shouting at him and sending him out of the house. Instead of that, I'll forgive everything. Here, both the father and the son expect who will forgive first, who will ask the pardon there. It is like an ego here. The father is waiting for the son to come and ask sorry, and the son is waiting for the father to ask sorry. So both father and son have an ego problem, but they are ready to forgive each other. But no one is ready to come forward and express their feelings because of the generation gap, and they talk to each other like strangers. So let's see what is the poetic device here in this paragraph or in this stanza. Again, in the first itself, you can see silence surrounded. Both the words starting from the letter S, that is the consonant letters. Again, it is a alliteration. So the poetic device used here is alliteration, because the first two letters starts with the consonant letters, so it is known as alliteration. Which is the next poetic device here in the poem? The next one is shaping a new love. Shaping from sorrow, a new love. So here, sorrow and love. You can see the two words here. So it's just like a opposite words. Where you're happy, always you'll be sad. Sorrow is pain, love is happy. It's just a opposite kind of a word. So here, this kind of poetic device, that is a kind of a opposite words, these are known as antitheses. What is the poetic device used here? It is the device known as antitheses. Let's move on to the last and the final paragraph of this poem. So from the paragraph 1 or the stanza 1, 2 and 3, you could see the father is talking and where the son is completely silent. Let's see what happens in the stanza 4. Father and son We both must live on the same globe and the same island. He speaks, I cannot understand myself. Why my anger grows from grief. We each put out an empty hand, longing for something to forgive. Father and son, we both must leave. Father and son, and they have to live until their last breath. They cannot leave the house and go anywhere. On the same globe and the same land. They have to be in the same world and the same land. They cannot go anywhere out of it. So both living under a same roof, but their thoughts, ideas differs from each other. He speaks. So who is speaking here now? It is the son. So the son is speaking here. All the time it was father who was speaking. Now in the last stanza, in the third line, you can see the son is talking. I cannot understand. So who is here? As I told, he is son. So who is not able to understand? The son himself cannot understand what is happening in his life, what to choose, what is his aspiration. He is not able to understand anything about his life. I cannot understand myself. Myself is the son. The child says that I'm not able to understand what's happening, what's going on in my life. The child itself is not able to understand. Why? Anger grows from grief. Why I have so much of anger? Why do I react? Why there is a grief in me? What's happening with me? He doesn't even know. We each put out an empty hand. So here, both the father and the son, they have put in an empty hand. It means to say that living under the same roof with different opinion, with different perception, longing for something for forgive. So here, both son and the father wants to forgive each other, but as I told, it's a problem with ego. Son is waiting for the father to come and say, a father to come and ask sorry, and the father is waiting for the son to come and ask. Both wants to forgive each other. They want to forget everything and start a new life that is with lot of understanding, love, care, affection, everything. But both are not in that situation to express their forgiveness to each other only because of the problem of ego. With these lines, I conclude with the session that is about the poem Father to Son. We'll meet you in the next session. Until then, keep learning. Have a good day. Thank you.